I'm Brad Edwards. Thank you for streaming with us here on CBS News Chicago. Farewell to a queen and a 70-year reign as monarch. Today, her funeral was held as the sun is now setting in London on a momentous day, and certainly one that was felt throughout the world. Many decades in the making, as now her son takes the reins as sovereign, King Charles. But what a day it was. So many moments, so many memories, from Westminster Abbey to Buckingham Palace to Hyde Park and beyond. Joining us for some remarkable insight is a friend of the stream and a friend of CBS 2, former main anchor here, Linda MacLennan. Linda, we know you're an avid royal watcher, a reporter for decades. Tell me, first of all, what it was like. I think the most momentous thing for me, a viewer here in Chicago, was watching when a lot of the pomp was over and there was a long motorcade from London to Windsor to see just the sheer amount of people, 20, 30, 40 deep, lining the streets. Can you give me a sense of it all?
I don't think that anybody estimated correctly the number of people that would come over here to be part of this and pay their last respects to the Queen. I could not believe that people were coming, more people were coming. They just kept coming into the city, and everywhere you were, there were people around you because she was clearly so beloved that you just wanted to be part of it, really. Where I was standing today earlier, I was not along the mall or any of those places where people were 20 and 30 deep. I was over in Kensington, and I was maybe about 5 people deep. But still, you know, it's not just when the things would go by you, when the soldiers and the pipes and drums and all that, you know, we call pomp and circumstance, which really came to life over here, for me anyway, the last few days. Not only when that all came by and just sort of the sound just sort of rushed over you, but it was talking to people who were waiting along with you and hearing from them and why they were there. But yes, you know, the morning was so impactful. The morning was so powerful. And then following up at Windsor with the stark marching, the sounds of the marching and the again, the piping drums and the solemnity of it all. Oh, and they're the corgis, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to go and live with Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. It's been an amazing 10 days. And there's King Charles. I keep wanting to call him Prince Charles, King Charles. And you think about the fact that this family this is day 11 of their grieving. And most of it, by and large, has had to be in the public eye. And so during the service at Windsor, when there was a close-up shot of him, I think when everyone was saying, "God save the King," and I thought, oh my gosh, he suddenly looks older. He looks more frail. My heart went out to him all over again because of the way he looked. And then I had to sort of pull myself up short and say, look, this is day 10 or 11 of this for this man, and doing it all in the public eye for all of them, really. It's been remarkable. I think everything seems to have gone off without a hitch. The fact that this city was able to pull this off, the security challenge of this was enormous, and that so many people descended upon the city, and it all went, from what I can tell, just swimmingly, as they might say. It's just been incredible.
Yeah, it did appear to go flawlessly. 1,000 security officers were there. Probably no greater security undertaking than what happened today in London. Linda, you're still clearly a pro, referencing video as we speak. One question now, a couple questions about King Charles now. He did look weathered, almost washed out, pale. One could expect that. This is 10 days of public mourning. He has lost clearly his North Star in life, his mother. Yes. But it's interesting, too, the empathy that you have extended him and the world has extended him. It was not so long ago that this man was not looked upon favorably. Your
Correct,
feeling
correct.
from your feeling
And,
from
and
the
as you
your
probably
feeling
know,
from
I
the
came over
ground.
after I was still working at Channel 2 and came over after the death of Princess Diana. And boy, oh boy, the world was not looking at all kindly upon the royal family at that time. The grief was so deep, the shock. And so there's Camilla, you see the Queen Consort sitting beside him there. And for both of those people, the world was not a very welcoming place. But yes, I think a lot of that has now dissipated. The bitterness has dissipated. And I think people are really have been really focused on the Queen over the last 10 days, rightly so. And he's had some focus. I think he's had a lot of heartfelt support. And I think a lot of those things have gone and receded into the background, thank goodness.
What did you think of the service itself? Tell me about it, your key takeaways.
You know, I was expecting to be more moved. I have to admit it. I was expecting to feel more emotion. I probably should not have. It is the funeral of the monarch. There are certain things that have to be done, certain people who have to be heard from. They managed to speak to a wide array of clergy people and involve them. It was spectacular to watch. But I think I was, in a sense, spoiled by watching the funeral of Princess Diana, which was pure and utter emotion. And there was not any of that really today, I didn't think. The music was spectacular. And again, the pageantry and the lead up to the actual funeral. Oh, and watching these men carry the casket, as we've watched, so many times in the last few days. The emotion that I felt was not so much during the funeral, but it was catching glimpses of the royal family and Harry and trying to imagine what's going through his mind, and William and Kate. So it was sort of the other parts of the funeral that to me meant the most, aside from the prayers and the hymns. Again, I shouldn't probably say I was hoping for more emotion. I didn't feel it. But also, to be fair, it's been 10 days since we've lost the Queen. So I think some of the emotion has subsided naturally.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I think you hit it on point. There was a bit of sterility to it. You didn't have, Elton John playing like Princess Diana.
Yes.
You didn't have some of the remarkable moments that you even had at Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, which was kind of an emotional juggernaut and a lot of kind of homages to Princess Di. I think it was very staid and very stately,
yes,
like you said.
I would agree with that. And perfect. I mean, everything just went off as it should have. Everything was just timed down to the second. And, they've been practicing, as they say, for how many years, decades actually. But it all went perfectly. I'm sure that everybody who was involved in the organizing of this vast undertaking and the security are very pleased tonight, very pleased.
I think one of the most fascinating things watching events like this, and I'm sure, Linda, you would agree as a journalist, is the ambience, just the natural sound of things, the clicking, cluckety-cluck of horses, the clicking of soldiers' shoes, the lone bagpipe. Take me to a couple of yarns that took you away today.
Well, the first one was fairly early this morning. I'm staying at a hotel that's actually sort of near Buckingham Palace, and was watching sort of the lead up to the funeral. I was watching on television, and all of a sudden I heard bam, 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 and I thought, I couldn't quite tell where it was coming from. So I went over to my window right behind me, and down below are all these soldiers marching in unison, marching in line. And it was the sound of their feet that just sort of woke me up again and said, yes, this is really underway and it's happening all around us. That was one moment that I just sort of caught me off guard. It was fun to be caught off guard that way. I mean, I loved it, but because it brought it back home. But again, I think it's that the bagpipes for me, being Scottish heritage, the bagpipes for me always resonate. it was the visuals as well for me that just, wow, that just take your breath away. And you mentioned camaraderie. When I was lined up today, waiting along the route, I was speaking to, most of the people around me were British, and it was just interesting to hear everybody's take on why they were there and why they participated as much as they could. And I did the queue yesterday for 10 and a half hours and didn't think really I'd make it. I did, but that was another fascinating experience of endurance, really. But the camaraderie that comes about from doing something like that and spending 10 and a half hours with a relatively small group of people that you know who are just around you and completing it and sort of, and then, after you've been sort of chit-chatting for 10 hours and getting to know each other, and then you enter into the hall and you're just almost slapped upside the head by the solemnity and the quiet, and it really brings you back to realizing why you're there. And you're there because you're saying farewell to the Queen. And you're part of history. But that to me will be the highlight, I think, of my trip here was that whole experience. Lasted a day, wiped me out, but I think I probably would reflect what most people who experienced it would say it was worth every step, 21,800 steps, worth every step of it and worth every minute of those 10 hours. And some people had even more, 17 hours. But it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, the queue, of course, the waiting in line. A good day for the stepometer. What is it? A pedometer? Who knows? On your Apple Watch, 21,800. Yeah, that's a good day for steps. As someone who has watched the royals closely, I mean, it wasn't too long ago. People hypothesized about a day when the royal family might not be around. I mean, we've seen nothing but the opposite of that over the past 10 days. I want to get your feeling on that, along with kind of tie it into what your expectations were when you decided to go to London, and were they met? Were they outdone? Kind of framed in, not too long ago, people thought a royal family was a thing of the past.
Yes. All right. Sort of two parts to that question. One, did the trip meet or fall short of my expectations? I would say if I hadn't done the queue, probably would have fallen a bit short. With so many people here, you're constantly battling the crowds. However, that said, you were able to get so much closer to Buckingham Palace this time than with Princess Diana, for example, because they had everything laid out and they would take you on a walk, basically. You're cordoned off within these metal barriers, and so you knew where you had to go, but you couldn't divert from that. You couldn't get away from that. But the queue, as I said before, the queue was really what just really brought it home for me and made it so memorable. And the future of the royal family, I don't know. I think King Charles has started off on a wonderful foot. I think the first day when he was greeting people and doing the walkabout, I think every step of the way over the last 10 days, he's done right. I think he's done a wonderful job. In my mind, one of his biggest challenges is going to see what happens with the relationship between him and Prince Harry and Prince William and Prince Harry. Because I think that's still fraught with all kinds of possible crises, really, not to overstate it. I think that's going to be a big part of maybe the next 6 months, year, who knows how long. But I think a lot of the future, how the public is going to feel about the monarchy, especially here, obviously, where it truly matters, I think a lot of it's going to come down to how Charles does. And I know his sons have been trying to modernize it. Let's see how much success they've had and working with their father. And I don't know. It's a question that I think you need an orb. You need a crystal ball to know. But I would say, as I leave here, I would say that everything looks well, other than the relationship between the royal family and Harry and Meghan. The Meghan factor, I think, is a big question mark.
Yeah, is a huge question mark. And then how that plays out and trickles throughout the world. As you said, it is rife with landmines. And I don't mean to put you on the spot there. You're not Merlin. So I think you answered that delicate question appropriately.
I'm not Merlin, and I'm very tired still.
Yeah, so we'll give you credit. It has been an awfully long day for you. One final question for you. You know, when you look at the line of succession now, it is 3 males, of course: King Charles, Prince William, and then a little boy. Yeah, exactly. So it's really hard, on day one to Monday evening quarterback something like this. But a 70-year reign by a woman at a time 70 years ago, where she was the only woman in the room. It is so, it's impossible, even someone who's a fan of history like myself, to wrap my head around what she's done, what she's meant. But you, as a woman, and what are your final thoughts on her reign as sovereign, what it has meant to women and what it has meant to a world? She truly led a remarkable life. She truly was the woman in the room when it was all men. Men held all the power around her. She was remarkable. Her dedication and her service and her ability to rise to every occasion was incredible. I don't know. I think I'm not sure I can even answer that question about, what does it say when you've got the next the 3 heirs are all men. Luckily, we're not at the time anymore where, let's say, if Princess Charlotte had been born first and Prince George II, not so long ago, she would have been bypassed and he would have become king, right? I'm glad we're out of those days for sure. She was just an incredible person, and to do it for 70 years. I mean, we'll never ever see that again. Maybe, hopefully, King Charles will have a 20-year, maybe 30-year reign, given the longevity of his mother and his grandmother. But we'll never see a 70-year reign again. And just to think about what she witnessed and what, as a woman, what she brought to the table. Just a remarkable person. Remarkable. Never again. Yeah, and I think as someone in the realm of politics, but not in the realm of politics, the people she could bring together, everyone who was at her funeral today, a remarkable guest list. Final thoughts to you, Linda MacLennan.
I know in the U.S. we see it all as just sort of a bit of a soap opera, really. And I would say to some extent they do here, although, this is their real life over here. It's easy to get caught up in the soap opera aspect of it, but I'm not being very articulate about this. I just think it's what we can take from this is the world watching, the world coming together and brought together, no matter what you think about royalty, what country you're from. It's a human story as well. And so we're brought together by this woman once again. The whole world is brought together by this woman once again to say farewell. And that is a wonderful thing. If we can put aside differences and disputes and politics and all that other stuff, if we can put that aside and just think about what this woman did on behalf of and for other people her entire life, she's done us a great service, I think.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point there. Some of us do see it as a soap opera, but I think the point you bring up in the beauty of having a leader like this, it is above politics. It's beyond, it's always been above politics. It's
Yes.
someone who's for 70 years has stood above it and had to always look at the macro and not the micro. So I think that's a wonderful sentiment. Linda MacLennan, with probably another 20,000 steps in today, we appreciate you making some time for us. Safe travels back to the States when you make your way back.
Much.
Former Channel 2 anchor, royal watcher, and longtime reporter Linda MacLennan joining us from London on a day where the world bid farewell to Queen Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us on the stream. I'm Brad Edwards. Now back to the stream.